Hi friends, Aitherea here, and a few weeks ago I made a video talking about the best 2-dye channel glamours in the game, some of the pieces that I was really excited about, and in that video I mentioned in passing that there were some pieces that I was very disappointed in, and you guys wanted to see a video of me going over the opposite, some of the worst 2-dye channel pieces in the game, so that is what we are doing today. I've picked out 10. There's obviously more than 10, but I picked out the ones that to me were the most disappointing because they were pieces that I had hopes for that just didn't turn out, as well as a couple that were fan favorites for being some of the worst. So let's just get into it. The first piece I have here is the Thavnarian tights, and if we look at the dye preview here, and I'm going to choose white and blue so it's very visible, you will see that the first dye channel is the panties, it always has been, and the second becomes these gold accents that trims the panties and trims these straps on the legs. I think you guys already know because I mentioned it in that first video. This one's really disappointing because the leg straps stay this kind of brown color, which again just means it's not really gonna match with everything. These are such cool tights. They're like one of the only like leg strappy things you get. A lot of people like the leg straps. I love the leg straps. It can be a very cool edgy look. It can be a very sexy look depending on what you pair it with, but it's so limited because of these stupid brown straps that can't be changed. And I wish what they would have done would be, instead of just making these gold accents dye, they should have made these straps dye along with the gold accents. There are some pieces in this game, and this is one of them, that I genuinely wish they would go back in future patches and just like fix. Just go back and add the straps to the second dye channel, because some of the pieces that they've changed to have a second dye channel just feel like they weren't very thoughtful, and this is definitely one of them. Next up is the Free Spirits cropped slops. These I used in a Pictomancer glam, if you saw my glam ideas video for Pictomancer, and I think these are a really fun pair of pants. You guys know I don't usually wear pants, but I kind of like these because I like the color blocking, and I don't know, I think it's kind of neat, kind of like almost like a little 70s. It's just really fun. So the way that this one dyes is if you do one dye channel, you still have this color blocking effect. But if you add a second dye channel, the part that gets dyed is the little fringe at the bottom and the buttons. And someone in my last video made this comment and they were like, something you'll notice about the way the second dye channel is that they don't change the first dye channel at all. They just like add another one. So stuff that was previously not dyeable gets dyed. But I kind of wish again that they would have went the extra mile, at least for some pieces, to change the way that they dyed, instead of going by that formula of like leave it the exact same way it dyed before and then just add something new. Because like, what does this fringe really add to the piece? What I would rather have would be a choice of the color blocking, like which colors get to change. So this one was disappointing for me because when I tried to do the second dye channel, I fully believed that it was gonna be the color blocking, where it would be like this middle part you could pick the color and the outer part you could pick the color, but then it was just a button and some fringe, and yeah, it's not the worst, it's not the best. Like I said, that commenter had a point, and that's absolutely the way they went about it, but I really do just wish that they would have been a little more thoughtful and put a little more effort into pieces like this, because there's literally some pieces that all they did was make the color of the button or like the stitching or something different, to the point where like you can't even see that. Why waste resources and time on changing those pieces that are so tiny, minimal, and negligible that you can't even see them, instead of finding pieces like this where it has like an obvious thing that you could do with the second dye channel? Be like, here's dye channel 1 with the darker color, here's dye channel 2, and that way you can make the pants all one color if you wanted to, or you could make them red and blue. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't get why they put their resources into the dye channels the way that they did, because I really would rather have them spend a little extra time to change the way that this dyed than to like put a button, to second dye channel for a button on the salon server shoes. I don't get it. But let's move on. Next up is the appointed jacket. So let's take a look at how this one dyes with one dye channel, and you see it's what you'd expect, the jacket. Now for the second dye channel, what do you expect? I personally expect the vest. But here's what you actually get. This little piece. I don't know, I don't get it. I thought that this was part of the vest. Like, just looking at the construction before you even dye it, it just looks like it's supposed to be part of the vest underneath. It doesn't look like a separate piece. I don't know, but this was such a weird choice. What color combination could you possibly do that this would even look good? Like, that this would even make sense. It's like this weird like sash underneath. And there's so many choices that they had with this. They could have done just this underside of the vest. Presumably they could have done the whole vest. They could have done the tie. They could have done this white shirt underneath. They could have done any of those things. But instead they choose this like weird piece. I don't get it, and I don't think it looks good. Moving on, we have the Southern Seas skirt. I really love this piece, but this is one that suffers from the whole, let's just give the second dye channel to some stitching. And I feel like whenever they do that, that's like the least impactful thing that you could do. To me, it makes a lot more sense if they would have made the waistband the dyeable part. And again, this is one of those things where the way that it originally dyes without a second dye channel is just that the waistband is, for whatever reason, lighter than the rest of the skirt. But again, I feel like it would have been worthwhile to put more resources into just changing the way that this dyes and giving the second dye channel to the waistband. And like, you can include stitching in the button in that if you want to, but it just isn't very impactful. And I think it'd be more useful to have the waistband be something that you could match, because it's always been weird to me that it's like a lighter color. Like, it's fine and doesn't really look bad, but I feel like there are some outfits where you're like, why is this a lighter color? I wish it wasn't. I wish it just matched. So I feel like it would have made more sense, again, instead of putting resources into, because there's like a bunch of pieces that they were just like, let's just make the button have a second dye channel. Like, instead of doing that, to put it into something like this and just make the waistband work. I don't know. Next up, we have the Dalmaskin draped top. This is another top that I really enjoy using. It's sexy, it has a nice cut and fit to it. The only thing I don't love about it is probably the belt. Like, I don't hate it, but you know, if you look at how it dyes, the belt stays brown, and you're like, maybe it will be nice if the belt would change color. Unfortunately, that does not happen. The belt stays brown, and instead the scarf changes color. And it's another one of those instances where I kind of wish either the belt would be the thing that would change and the scarf would just stay the way that it was, because it was like kind of a white shade, so it wasn't really a big deal, or that it would all change together, where like if you dye it a second color, then the belt would also dye that second color as would the scarf. Like, it would be kind of like all one piece except for like the accent colors on the scarf. That to me would make more sense, because as it stands, again, I feel like there's just not a lot of impact from the scarf changing color. Like, it's fine, but it's nothing special, and it doesn't really change the piece in a way that makes it more versatile or more usable as compared to how it was before it had a second dye channel. So yeah, that's why this one is on the list. Now we have Quaintrell's ruffled skirt. This is a very popular piece. A lot of people really like this skirt, and I can't blame them because it's really, really cute. Who wouldn't want a big, frilly, cute skirt? Let's look at how it dyes. So what you get for the second dye channel is just this waistband. Now, this isn't like a horrible thing because I've talked about in the past in my last video about how I like when there's a gold accent if you're able to change that to be a different color because maybe you prefer silver or maybe it just doesn't match because the rest of your outfit has silver or something along those lines. So I like that. What I don't like is these stripes on the skirt. And as much as I like the skirt, I've always been a little bit bothered by the stripes because they're dark. How cool and beautiful and cute and wonderful would this skirt be if when I pick a white color, not only does it dye this waistband part, but it also changes these to white. Honestly, I would rather have the stripes than the waistband because I just feel like it'd be so pretty. But again, I think both would be best. Like I feel like the second dye channel should be this waistband and these little stripes. Alternatively, another option that they could have done for the skirt would be to make the bottom part, these legging pieces, the second dye channel. Like you could change these to be a different color than the skirt. I just feel like there's so many options and they picked like the worst one. Moving on to the Yakaku Dogi, this was possibly one of the biggest disappointments for me. So with one dye channel, you see it just changes the base color of the shirt. That makes sense. The second dye channel, I think you can guess, I was hoping it would change the color of the tattoo because this piece is beloved because the tattoo is so pretty. Who doesn't want like a little sakura branch tattoo? That's so cool. So it's like, oh my god, what if it changes the color of the flowers? I hate to inform you, it does not. Instead, it changes the color of this little hanging sash piece down here and like the inside of the sleeve. And again, like it's not the worst thing ever because otherwise those are red and black and maybe again doesn't match everything, but I don't know, it's like, it would be so much cooler if it changed the color of the tattoo. And again, it could be a thing where the second dye channel includes these pieces that they've chosen but also includes the tattoo. Like, I want the flower petals on the tattoo to change color. That would have been so freaking amazing. It would have been incredible, but they didn't do it. I need them to watch this video and in a future patch, do what I tell them to do. Do what I tell you. Give us what we want. I really, like, they are going back with their graphics update and actually like tweaking and fixing things that people have complained about, and I really want them to do that with the dye channels as well because like there's some big misses and I feel like this is a huge missed opportunity. How could you miss this opportunity? I don't get it. Next up, we are moving into some Mog Station pieces. The first one I have is the Far Eastern Maidens bottoms. Now, what I really like about these bottoms is these tights. They look like nylons. They have a kind of a sheen to them, and yeah, they look like pantyhose, and I think that's really lovely. So when you dye this, the first dye channel is, as it always was, it's the shorts, very expected. But the problem I have with these is when you go and pick a second dye channel, these become like opaque leggings. They lose out on that sheen. They become more matte. They no longer look like pantyhose. They don't look like nylons. They don't look like tights. They just kind of look like leggings. And for me, that's a big L because I think it would have been really pretty if they kept that sheer look. So they still looked like they were tights, but then you can pick whatever color you wanted. So this is another one where it's like, I almost feel like if they would just like add that sheen effect that it has before you add the second dye channel, it would keep that sort of like pantyhose effect. I don't really understand why they got rid of that when they decided to add that as a dye channel. It doesn't make sense to me, but it's definitely disappointing and takes this piece down a notch. Next, we have the Eastern Socialite set. I really like this set, but the pieces that are especially disappointing are probably the hat, the body piece, and the skirt. So let's start with the hat here. So as per usual with this hat, the first dye channel changes the color of the actual hat. The second dye channel, however, just changes the color of the band around the hat. Now this one isn't one of the worst offenders, but I do wish that it also changed the color of the flowers. I really like this hat, it's really pretty, but the flowers being red does mean that sometimes it's not really gonna match with everything that you might want to use it with. And I think that if the flowers would have been added to the second dye channel along with the ribbon around the hat, that would have been a better choice. Now it's the body piece and the skirt that are especially egregious. As we know, just one dye channel will change the body color. It's fine, it's what you'd want. But the second dye channel, what do you think it'll change? You might hope that it will change the flowers. It does not. Instead, it changes these little pieces, these teeny little details on the short sleeves, as well as this inside piece here, this little teeny strip of fabric at the bottom. So overall, it's pretty disappointing because I think it would have been a lot more impactful and beautiful and fun if you could change the color of the flowers on the dress, similar to how you can on the owl dye. Because remember in my first video, I was like, I didn't even like the owl dye that much before. Now I love it because the way the flowers change is so pretty. We don't get that. And it's the same deal with the skirt, where if you dye it, the second dye channel, all it does is dye this little teeny accent piece. And it just is really sad because I love this skirt, but sometimes the flowers don't match with the top that I'm choosing because they're red and they can't be anything but red. And I just really wish that they would have changed the flowers. It kind of boggles my mind that that is not what they did, especially for a Mog Station piece that you're paying for. If there's anywhere to put in the effort, it's here. And they tried to put 2 dye channels in basically all of the Mog Station pieces, except there's a couple that they didn't that don't make sense to me, which I will be sharing one of them later. But yeah, just like for a piece that you pay $18 for, I feel like they should have done better, and they should have definitely put resources into making this second dye channel better. Even if they do include this little piece here, which is like, why not? Why doesn't that go with the, like, why isn't it the flowers and this piece? Again, this is like the theme throughout this whole thing. So our 10th and final outfit for being one of the most disappointing pieces with 2 dye channels. This one's here by popular demand. It is the Fat Cat hoodie. So you'll notice that the shorts don't even get a second dye channel, even though you could arguably have the stripes be the second dye channel. But let's take a peek at how these dye. We're going to start with the top because I think it's probably the one that people are the most upset about. But the first dye channel dyes basically the whole thing, and the second dye channel dyes just the little beads and these little accents here where the string comes out of the hoodie. And I think what everybody is wondering is why they didn't separate this into like 2 parts. Because again, this is one of those where the way that it dyed originally is like this, and they just added something, which is so funny because they didn't even add the buttons going down the thing. They just added these teeny little pieces. But people are probably wondering, why can't you change the color of these patches separately? Like if I'm choosing pink for the first, or well, if I'm choosing pink for the first color, then sure, the base color of this should be pink. But if I choose blue for the second color, then the patches should be different shades of blue along with this little tail. That's what people are wondering. So unfortunately, that is the same situation with the hat, where the thing that gets dyed is just the ears, and it's not like the spots or anything that change color. So people are really disappointed, rightfully so. I do think this is another scenario of where they should have put in extra effort to make it so that they create a new second dye channel. So instead of keeping it the same way where it's like, what does one dye channel do? it does this. They should have made it so that the first dye channel is just the base color and then separated these patches and had those become the second dye channel. Because as it stands, this one is just people are like, why? It feels lazy. So those were the 10 worst pieces in terms of 2-dye channels, the ones that are the most disappointing. But I do have a couple that remained 1-dye channel that I have to just kind of rant about for a second here. The first one is the Fairy Tale Princess's long skirt. Why is this still 1-dye channel? You look at this piece and it's very easy to see what you could dye, especially when you use the first dye channel. So it starts off with this beautiful like minty green color for the waistband, and the bottom is like, I don't know if it's supposed to also be minty green. I think it is, but it's almost looks kind of silvery. The details start off green, but whenever you dye this, they turn gold, which is like so weird. Why does that happen? Why doesn't it stay green? Like, that's the weirdest thing ever. But now you are stuck with gold. So it's like, why does it not have a second dye channel where you can dye the gold stuff that started off minty green? So there must be something in the programming, the coding, that already changes the color of it, since it changes when you dye it. It's so weird. So why does this one not have a second dye channel when it's a Mog Station piece? They went out of their way to basically do every Mog Station piece with a second dye channel. Why did this piece not get one? I'm just super confused about it. I'm so confused about it, especially when they go on and they make stupid things. Like, here's the stitching, here's just the buttons. Like, they made all these like really minuscule decisions that have no impact. You zoom out, you can't even see it. But then this one that would actually have a lot of impact and is a piece that you have to pay real money for, they don't bother to put a second dye channel at all. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Maybe they will someday. And I hope they do, and I hope when they do that it's not this. If they do this flower up here, I will lose my mind if it's just this flower. But I need them to give this a second dye channel and to make this gold trim, this gold accent, the thing that you change. Because I love this piece, and I think it can look really pretty. I think it can make for really pretty glams. Okay, so they need to add this. The other one that was a really big missed opportunity was all this tech gear that you get from PvP. I said this in my last video, but I don't really understand how coming into Dawntrail with a place such as Solution 9, they didn't bother to give these 2 dye channels. Like, these should have been prioritized so that people could make their glams for the MSQ playing through Solution 9. Like, a lot of people wore this stuff anyway, but like, imagine if it had a second dye channel. You know? So those are the ones that I'm like pretty annoyed with, that don't make sense to me at all, why they weren't prioritized or done better. But that's that, I guess. So I would love to know which pieces in the game you're most disappointed in for the second dye channel, including pieces that you think should have gotten a second dye channel but didn't, ones that you're hoping for. And I'm sure with the ones that didn't, like the PvP tech gear, and I know other people really like the Scalec gear and stuff, I'm sure a lot of those will get second dye channels in the future. Obviously they couldn't do everything at once. I think my thing with the PvP gear is, like I said, it just feels like it was super on brand for Solution 9 and Dawntrail, which is like, it feels like that's the reason they made it and put it in the game ahead of time, and then they just didn't follow through with giving it that second dye channel. But regardless, I would love to know which pieces you're looking forward to seeing a second dye channel for, as well as which ones have a second dye channel but you think that dye channel is like stupid and bad and sucks. I'd love to hear about that in the comments. As always, please consider leaving a sacrifice to Lord Algorithm in the form of a like, comment, share, or subscribe. And thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to my channel members for supporting me. Bye!